minute. There we are. Now you can hear me. I'm so sorry. I thought I had a couple of seconds. Go take care of the really important stuff. By the way, I'm wearing my Canadian red and black. Yes, I agree with you. The time change. Let's talk about it. Let's break it down and call it what it is. Ridiculous. You know, when I was a kid, I used to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and watch the whatever on the TV go from 2 o'clock, go 1:59 to 1 o'clock, or go from 1:59 to 3 o'clock. We didn't have a lot of hobbies back then. We just didn't. Right? Well, what are we going to talk about today? What's going on in the world? I don't know. Maybe a complete and utter Dow Jones Industrial Average crash? Maybe the stock market has literally called its bluff on Team Trump and Elon Musk. Oh, it's in the stars. Oh, it's in the stars. But I have a special astrology for you today. I don't know if you realize that I'm really kind of I'm totally kind of decked out in my Canadian lumberjack gear. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night. Mwah. By the way, I just want to break into singing the lumberjack song. It's the only thing I want to do right now. Right? We've got to understand something. Hate doesn't have fuel. Hate is the only fuel, and the only thing that it does is burn itself. So as we go along in all of this, I want you to recognize that it burns itself. Now, how we approach things and how fear really kind of pins us into situations. Pay attention to how things are communicated to you. And by the way, I'm going to call out my leftist friends that love to talk about how Donald Trump just wants martial law and that you should be scared and afraid and you should be worried about this, that, and the other thing, things that you post, gathering together, all of that stuff. Our freedoms are still intact so long as we act on them. Okay, so let's not scare ourselves into a corner. Number two, the scare tactics that the conservative movement has done, and by the way, when I say conservative movement, I'm going to go back to 1996 with a guy you may or may not know, but he got the presidential medal for broadcasting from Donald Trump in his first term, and that was Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh set the tone of distrust, mistrust, and otherwise seediness about who we are as Americans. And he twisted every topic. So those salesmen that sat in the car, between, 1994 and 2000, even 15 or so, before he got sick, we're getting a daily dose of how to twist into hate. So in that, interesting. So there is so much of this that is getting fed. The feeding of fears, the feeding of who we are. And by the way, it's coming from both sides. I want you to understand this. People will get ratings no matter what. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I started falling into a trap and then I did less shows. If I can make a show about Trump, all I had to do is put Trump in the title. All I had to do is put Ukraine in the title. I wasn't going to build a business that way. It's not good energy. It's not good vibration. But I do accept the responsibility that all of you have of me. And that is to say, hey, Brandon, tell us something good. Tell us something's real. Well, you got to take the real. You got to take the good. You got to take the bad. You take them all, and there you have this economy. Then they start throwing out words like tariffs and criminals and everything else. I could have very easily talked about the criminal, which, by the way, I am going to pull up one thing. Joe Pine, by the way, Muley friend, thanks for bringing that up. Joe Pine was before him, and Joe Pine actually hated Rush Limbaugh because he did it better than him, just as a little bit of an FYI. But on a simple Bing Google search. If I type in the words, how many immigrant arrests were criminals, yeah, they're giving me dated numbers here. The criminal alien statistics in 2024 under Joe Biden. Oh, would you look at this? In the first Trump presidency, 8,500, 6,600, 6,700, 4,300, 2,400. From 17 to 2020. Then under Joe Biden, how many arrests happened of illegal aliens? 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 17,000, and I rounded down. Without a doubt, Donald Trump secured the border less than the last two presidents. Just being statistically anomaly here, right? The total type of convictions that went on, by far, in terms of violent criminals, and by the way, this is the cbh.gov. It is a statistics-only website. It does not give opinion. It does not sway you. Assault, battery, and domestic violence. Can we agree that that's kind of violent? Here they are from 17 to 2020. 600, 500, 300, 200. From 2021 under Joe Biden, 1,100, 1,100, 1,300, 1,000. And that was a year to date as of November. It is very consistent with burglary. This is going to blow you away, though. Like illegal drugs, kind of on par. Illegal entry and re-entry almost doubled again. Weapons charges and trafficking quadrupled under Biden. From Trump's first go around of this. But this one's going to make you drop, just going to make you fall out of your chair. Homicides and manslaughter. Listen, there are bad people in the world. Sometimes they happen to cross a border. Stuff happens, circumstances happen. None of these statistics tell the story behind it, but we're going to take it at face value. Murder and homicide is something we don't want in this country for any reason, right? Whether you're driving your kids into the pool or whether you're taking it out on a spouse, we don't want you to have violence here. We just don't. It's our standard of living, right? The answer isn't necessarily taking it out of the country, but you understand. Here are the statistics during the Trump administration for homicides and manslaughter. For 2017, 3. For 2018, 3. For 2019, 2. For 2020, 3. Under Joe Biden in 2021, 60. He had more convictions before the thaw of his first administration than Trump had is in his entire 4 years. 62, 29, and 29. Listen, I'm going to do 122, carry the 1. I'm trying to make me look smart. 169, plus that almost 200 convictions of violent criminals connected to murder, manslaughter, whatever, to Donald Trump's 11. The fact that they continue to shovel the shit about immigrants is disgusting. Our open dialogue needs to turn towards not the fear of these people. And by the way, you are better, those statistically speaking, you are better protected under Joe Biden than you were Donald Trump. Statistics, facts, the kryptonite of the Trump administration, right? But we've got a really kind of fun presentation here tonight. I'm going to call it a presentation. I could call it a show. But I want you to see the kind of tone change that I kind of have here because it's intentional. I'm a big fan of The Daily Show. I'm a big fan of, late night talk shows. After all, I am a bit of a MC myself. But I want you to recognize that I want to take a decidedly different tone here. And I want to let you know that the way that I want to present this to you is both tongue-in-cheek but also cutting to the bone because I want to speak about the energy. I also want to tell you that I want to take a look at the chart of the new Prime Minister of Canada. I do believe that this could be someone that will put Donald Trump in his place. In all fairness to Justin Trudeau, and I may say this again, little light in the fighting loafers, if you know what I'm saying. And by the way, I'm sure that there are detractors of Justin Trudeau. I'm sure there are supporters of Justin Trudeau. But Donald Trump is a very unique type. And we're going to take a look at why Mark Carney, by the way, the name Carney for a leader, come on, is one that is both of accomplishment as well as understanding that Trump has absolutely met his match north of the border. Absolutely. But first, a little bit of a slideshow, right? Trish, I can get back to you on that one. That's a great question. Even if I take a look at that on the website there, in terms of illegal entry, I think illegal entry has actually gone down, but I don't have that in front of me. So I don't want to go making stuff up. Yeah, across the board, the Biden administration was more effective, though. So, a couple of things here. Let's go talk to Donnie here for a second. Hey, Donnie, are you hiding? Donnie, did they tell you no again? The Trump administration in the first 100 days, on one side of it, the history will be told that they accomplished so much by executive order. And by the way, executive order, unfortunately, or fortunately, is about as worthy as the toilet paper you flushed this morning. Because it is not an enforceable law, but rather one that we go with in the spirit of the law. Executive order is kind of a decree and kind of a, hey, if you honor me, you're going to follow through with this. It is not actually law until Congress and other legislative bodies vote on it, pass it through, and make it whole. That is why U.S. aid, I will predict right here, will be completely intact by the end of June. Because farmers will be going bankrupt and Donald Trump won't have enough security. Dare I say, however, Donald Trump is not a dumb man. He has slowly been buying cryptocurrency at an alarming rate. But all of his withholdings, which have to be disclosed, and by the way, only about 20% of all of his information is disclosed. And again, I'm pulling that number out of my ass. I think it's way more than that. But on the other side of it, he doesn't have to do it because he was doing maneuvers as a private citizen. He hid behind the law time and time again. And oh, by the way, if that doesn't serve him, he'll just simply avoid the law. That flag that you're peeking around, mister, happens to be my country. I've been rooting for it for a long time. You, however, are the sole person that would ever make me root against the United States. Wholesale. Not because I want us to lose. I want you to lose. There's more. Because let's talk about choices here for a second. Lindsey Graham waffles more than a Waffle House. And I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to say this from a place of love. Just come out. If you have an ounce of gaydar, you understand that this man's plight, not only in how he speaks, but what he agendas and how he goes about things, is 100% hypocritical to who he is. It has been a long time standing known thing that Lindsey Graham is not straight. It is not a crime to not be straight. However, if you're going to be a Republican politician from the Carolinas, you would better learn how to be an oppressor to women. But don't worry. He's been able to do all of those things. He has been shooting down same-sex legislation since he got in there. Meanwhile, what was exposed earlier this week was a no-holds-barred report about his sexual pursuits with virtually, quote-unquote, every gay male actor in the industry, end quote. Allegedly. Lindsey Graham hasn't been true to himself, but it's actually a symptom of a bigger issue. It's not just him waffling. It was him understanding that he was going to try and survive all the way through. Now, we often call people like this narcissists, and that's actually somewhat incorrect. But there is a Machiavellian edge to how he reacts, which is self-survival, finding his needs being met, and oh, by the way, being able to live for another day. That's not narcissism. It's Machiavellianism. That appeals to Trump, because the Machiavellian archetype always has a weakness. Always has a weakness. Listen, Forrest Gump, it was chocolate. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Everybody's got something, and Donald Trump will grift off of anybody. Lindsey Graham could turn all of this on his head with, I don't know, honesty, authenticity. And as much as he needs to apologize to the entire LGBTQ plus community, he really needs to apologize to himself, because his life has been wasted without being true to himself. Would he not have been a politician? Probably not. Would he have been a better person? Odds are 100% there. But let's take a look at all the other decisions that Donald Trump has made lately. Look at this fucking guy. Look at the curves on that couch. Once again, in the gaydar level of things, and again, I'm not an expert, but I know a few things. If you put on eyeliner and go out in public, you would better be in Motley Crue. Or go into a drag show. Either way, it's all good. You're not skiing in Vermont, certainly not with your family. The sheer audacity that this man has possessed since being anywhere near leadership is beyond me. Between yelling at Zelensky and then flat out basically telling people that they're no good and that they really need to up their game for being pieces of shit, end quote, he really needs to take a long look in the mirror and do his eyeliner all the way over his eyeball. All of this is 100% this kind of freak show, I'm going to do what I want type of thing, which, by the way, is what you're getting shamed for, whether it's a drag show or whether it's being a medium. They're trying to reduce you down to nothing while acting like they can do anything. Correct? By the way, rapist, let that sit. Tax evader, felon, criminal, and civil. Closeted man who would be set free if he was just honest with himself, instead of railing against the LGBTQ community for the likeness of the establishment. And I don't know what this is. But still, nonetheless, he answers to the tech bros. And isn't that really what this administration is about? Let's talk about the tech bros for a second. They've got a ton of money, and none of it is ever audited. And when it is typically shut down for whatever shady things they were doing. Just ask Kash Patel. Just ask Vivek Ramaswamy. Oh, by the way, they're not DEI hires. They're actually sycophant hires, because none of them actually have any qualifications. Go ahead and ask this man. Oh, behave. Elon Musk has lost $151 billion, nearly half of his wealth since the beginning of the administration. He lost, 15% today? Meanwhile, people are taking it out on Tesla vehicles. Those cyber trucks really are easy to spot, aren't they? Whether you want to riddle them with bullets or you just want to blow them up wholesale, it really doesn't take a whole lot, because they're paper thin and they're not very well made. He's also sustained attacks at his dealerships, but none of that is pale in comparison to what is happening to his stock right now. He's dropped down to 222 from a 475 point when Trump took office. This is 100% the grift. If you think he's going to get all those government contracts, you're out of your mind. He's being set up left and right because the one deal that he made was to purchase Trump Media. And oh, by the way, Trump Media is in a world of pain. Donald Trump has lost 300 million in Trump holdings in one day, today, reported by Forbes at 5:35 this afternoon. The White House is on fire because they lit themselves to keep them warm. You have to start to recognize that all of their ploys are literally imploding. And not just because their battery isn't connected to the right mechanisms. It's because they literally have been trying to figure out who to blame. Their point we're going to go into a recession tells you that his degree should be pulled today. His full-on assault of tariffs and how the dollar works, along with the complete lack of understanding of how immigration works, forget about empathy. Forget about tall tale lies. Forget about being held accountable for his crimes, for his lies, for his constant misconduct. He's losing money every day. The only thing he cares about. I almost choked on an ice cube. Speaking of which, let's talk about Canada. Oh, wait, one more thing. Before we go there, let's go international. And by the way, the actual brilliant move, absolute brilliant move by this man will never be forgotten. Adam Sandler is known for his countless hysterical movies. And by the way, as silly or as stupid or as ridiculous as they are, I caught you laughing every single time. He showed up to the Oscars, a formal affair, in a blue sweatshirt. Look at that. And gym shorts. He got through security. He went through the lineup, went on the red carpet. He said, "Hi, everybody. How you doing?" "Oh, I'm just here for the Oscars." And then, as he came in, he really kind of made a big deal about it, right? Conan O'Brien wanted to make fun of him. It was clearly a planned thing. I'm just glad nobody got slapped, right? But Adam Sandler knew this Chalamet kid was going to be wearing this bright yellow suit. And by the way, he was dressed to the nines. Whatever awards he won, I'm sure he was gifted in it. I've seen him in like one movie, but I'm over 50. I don't really know who the hell he is. But Adam Sandler, when he was getting quote unquote kicked out, and it was the political stand-up moment. That Adam Sandler, who quite frankly didn't want to sit still there anyways, he's scratching his balls thinking about a beer. That's who Adam Sandler is. He comes over and stands directly next to him. Of everybody in that arena, of everybody that he knows, and he hugs the guy in yellow. He made the Ukrainian flag to show support. He wanted you to know subtly that no matter what you do, no matter how many rules you put around him, he's going to get his message across. He was actually giving us a blueprint on how to tell the White House to go suck it. That it's not acceptable. That it's not okay. Meanwhile, over in Europe, they've been rallying. They've actually been saying, screw this guy. Why do we need America for anyways? But I understand. We're going to get stealth with how we communicate. We're going to get kind of low and dirty about the things that we say and do. But understand this, the message is clear. What is not to be tolerated must be stood up for. It's that simple. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh, I did want to give you this statistic. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I should probably page this and whatever. But what you see right here, and whether you can read it or not, the numbers themselves might actually be depressing, but since the start of the Ukraine war, on the left-hand side talks about the number of people killed. The blue are adults. The purple are children. There have been 669 children that have been killed in the Ukraine war. Nearly 700 lives senselessly taken because Vladimir Putin thinks that they broke some sort of treaty or shit. There have been over 12,000, almost 13,000 Ukrainian soldiers killed. And by the way, at least adults, not even that they're soldiers. Injured, almost 30,000. Over 1,800 children alone. You know, because you bomb schools and stuff. If we looked at this number every day, it might help us understand. Because it has gone up almost every month. And in the months that it didn't, like say last January, when Joe Biden was getting together with the UN and essentially saying, this needs to end now. And Putin says, I'll wait to see what happens in the election. Don't tell me this isn't a political proxy war, because it is. I paused a bit before we get to the talk about Canada. The United Nations has actually been rallying, and they had actually seen us stand back and support Russia for the first time in the history of ever. It has never been part of our policy to support Russia. It has never been part of our policy to be anti any of their aggressions, whether it was Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, and now Ukraine or Crimea. None of those. We've never, ever not said to Russia, we don't condone this. The bigger problem here is that he's rolling over left and right, which we've all known that he's been a Russian asset. He's literally a Russian asset. And by definition, a Russian asset is that as a person that will act on the behalf of the alternate country instead of your own, right? A foreign asset. He is a threat to the United States way of life. Period. Period. By the way, am I saying anything that's actually fear-mongering? No. I'm speaking to the truth. That's what's going to get us through. To look at bullies like this and say, this behavior doesn't fit who we are. Doesn't fit who we are. Doesn't fit what we want. And oh, by the way, you're a liar. Let us take a look at some of those voting machines. I'm still stuck on the fact that we didn't scrutinize any of the machines. And yes, I still think that the election was stolen. Until we actually put it through the same Vespers that it should go through to be able to discover whether or not it should be legitimate or not. In the meantime, this is what we're getting. Could Canada save the United States from itself? Here we go. Oh, by the way, I do think Donald Trump will leave the country. He will not be able to stay here. You think those Teslas look bad? And by the way, the United States will take over Mar-a-Lago, gut it for what it's worth, and turn it into a vacation home for veterans. Fucking I said it. So Canada's new leader, Mark Carey. By the way, those of you that don't know Canadian history, I'm going to get you caught up a little bit. You see, Mr. Carey here, Carney rather, is actually a very prolific politician. He also has citizenship in 3 countries. Not only is he there in Canada, but he's also in Britain as well as Ireland. Probably because he's actually ran the Bank of England before, not to mention the Bank of Canada. He's actually been on the finance team for the Canadian government for almost 20 years. Don't think he isn't? Those of you that have the pound or the loon, pull it out because his signature is actually on your current tender. The dude is the bomb in terms of financing in Canada. He understands the economic pressures one way or the other. He also knows how to spell tariffs. See what I did there, everybody? The man knows his financing inside and out, and he can talk about everything from what goes on to the flush economy of Mississauga and how to turn it around, the breadbasket and the ironwork that needs to happen, along with understanding how the farmers of Manitoba need to be able to get back to what they're doing so that then the freight lines through Saskatoon are able to connect everything from the Yukon over to the Northwest Territories. This man is eloquent on how to manage financial arrangements. He can turn a tariff inside out. Team Canada for the win. He's also advised the United Nations on several different economic structured situations, such as the recovery that had to happen in Greece, as well as the Italian economy breakdown that kept it from collapse because they followed his instructions. This guy kind of sort of is the financial Superman of the world. Guess what? Didn't come from the U.S. Guess what? Isn't a tech bro. Guess what? Understands the world and what we need as an economy. I'm going to take a look at his chart right here. And what I'm about to show you is going to be his way of dropping trow on Donald Trump. Now, a couple of things right out of the gate here. First of all, the thing that I always look for is what's happening with the nodes, because this is where fate and destiny really kind of come together. The node is the bull's headed. In this case, we have Donald Trump's time of birth, and then we have Mr. Mark Carney on the outside of it. It works to our advantage, even though we don't have his time of birth. We just simply don't have his rising sign. But in this chart analysis, everything else is equal because we're comparing it to Trump's. So this is why it's golden. Are you ready? The north nodes are actually in alignment here. That is proof of destiny. That is a collision course for one's purpose. And even though that there is a difference in the age between the two of them, Trump being born in 40 and then Carney being born in 65. By the way, I just can't read that far. So he has run more successful countries than Donald Trump has killed companies. Fate and destiny in the 10th house. By the way, they are both, in this case, 10th house sons. So Carney's son is sitting in his 10th house, which means he's going to illuminate his career. He is going to enlighten or expose everything to that, everything to his world. Now, they both have something very interesting in common. Are you ready? Mark Carney and Donald Trump were both born on a full moon. So guess what? We've got matched energy. However, you're going to put the late numbered Taurus, which, by the way, is in alignment with the Algol star. Remember when I was talking about the Algol star all those times that they're like, oh my gosh, Brandon, it's all bad? This is where it's fucking awesome. The Algol star is sitting right in Donald Trump's 10th house. Well, Mark Carney comes along and goes, sunshine coming down me, yeah. This sun gun's going to come right in, do a little bit of exposure. Say, hey, listen, look at that evil demon over there. We're just going to turn pot and make sure that everybody sees it. Oh, I'm just getting going. This chart is delicious. Now, another blessing that Mark Carney has is that his Jupiter is conjunct to the North Node, which means that MFer is going to absolutely do everything to expand and empower himself and the situation. Meanwhile, just below, in the deck below, you have the North Node connected to Trump's sun as well as his Uranus. Oh my goodness. Can we talk about this for a second? Now, they are in conjunct with one another, and basically, Jupiter connected to the North Node along with the North Node connected to Uranus. This is a battle for the ages. Donald Trump has had to use technology his grift on reality, his grift on whatever. Jupiter is knowledge. Jupiter is the expansion of the knowing. This MNFer knows what Trump is doing. Now, when you start to break down the individual planets and how they act and behave with one another, Jupiter is square to Trump's Jupiter. What does that mean for them? That means that they're really going to kind of agitate one another. Trump's Jupiter is in the second house, which means that the 10th house Jupiter that Mark Carney has going on right here is absolutely going to sack twiddle good old Donnie boys. He's going to literally sit there and say, like, well, this is either going to be great for you or it's going to be horrible for you. Either way, it's about exposure. And oh, by the way, let's also take a look at what's going on with Saturn, which ends up being a trine. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It is not a square. Jupiter to Jupiter is actually a trine. Again, I'm going from memory here. But that trine energy of Jupiter traditionally empowers things. It also makes it undone. Sometimes it unravels things so that then it could have the right thing happen, which is perfect if you're sitting in the United States, you want to hear it. Might be a little challenging for the Canadians because they're like, why are we cleaning up your shit all the time? By the way, after the Trump administration, the United States can no longer turn around and say, you're welcome, Poland, we got rid of them. Or you're welcome, France, we went ahead and made sure that you were liberated. No more of that. No more of that. We are going to suck wind for the Canadians because they're going to help us here. By the way, now the Saturn trine Saturn, this is a beautiful alignment. All of these are beautiful alignments because the Saturn that sits in Trump's chart is sitting, oh, there it is. Oh, wow, I'm running on fumes with this one. Is sitting in the 11th house in Cancer, which is not the most comfortable thing. He's socially awkward, right? But he loves himself. So he's going to love beautiful women, and he's going to be like, I need to see people all over the place, right? On the flip side of that, seeing how the Saturn for Carney here makes a trine for him to need to be able to get friendships what they need. In other words, he is going to be a stabilizing factor for Trump, moreover for the United States government. Because while Trump's sitting there going, I love beautiful women, they let you touch you, when you're famous, Carney's going to be over here saying, what are we doing? What is this? We're pay attention to the numbers here. Do you see the spreadsheet in front of you, Donnie? Can you read? He is going to bring in knowledge, and he's going to be a little condescending, by the way. The United States needs to be okay with Canada being condescending to us because, let's be honest, this mistake is catastrophic. We owe them right away, right? Understanding that Saturn from the 7th house of Carney pushing into the 11th house conjunctive good old Venus is basically going to stick Donald Trump with the, you can be as vain as you want, but you need us. Because Chiron, in conjunct to his Saturn, and by the way, it's a little bit of a wider conjunct, but we're still at 6 degrees here, is basically saying, I can heal this relationship if you just shut the fuck up. Shut up, Donnie. Donnie, the grown-ups are here. Hi, my name is Mark Carney. By the way, I can speak 6 languages. I'm a citizen of 3 different countries, and I also know what a P&L looks like. I've also never lied on my taxes, and oh, by the way, I'm a citizen of the world. What are you doing? Judging beauty pageants? Why stop there? This one, I think, is going to be the coup de grace. So you've got these kind of tension points, right? You've got the North Node hooking up with each other. And the North Node is basically like, oh, you're on this flight. We're on this flight together. We're going to do this together. Can we go to the bathroom at the same time like it happened in Lost and we all came out okay? And then we figure out which one we're supposed to eat, right? Then you have all of this action in the 10th house, which is exposing the career and the lack of knowledge. And oh, by the way, the right things start to kind of step forward. And a Tyrrhenian against a Gemini, I'm taking the Tyrrhenian every time, guys. You got to take the fixed energy in head-to-head combat. That's just the way it goes in astrology. As a mutable Pisces, thank you so much for the birthday wishes, by the way. As a mutable Pisces, I'm here to tell you sometimes you got to yield to the fixed energy. Just let them have their way. Let me tell you something about Mark Carney here, though. He's going to own his ass, is what he's going to do. So interestingly enough, then you have Jupiter trying to Jupiter. You have Saturn trying to Saturn. And then you have this beautiful first house. Donald Trump is an empty suit. And by the way, I hope they're watching at the White House right now. I hope they're watching it at Los Alamos. Donald Trump is an empty suit. He has an empty first house, which, by the way, some of you are running to your chart going, no, I have an empty house. I don't have anything. I have nothing. There's a difference between having a void house and being an empty soul. We all know Donald Trump is an empty soul. He is hurt. He is ready to fight on things, and he's completely unpredictable. Now, when you look at the influence of the first house from Mark Carney on his house, oh, Canada. Uranus conjunct to Mars, conjunct to Pluto. All in Virgo, by the way. Virgos are a lot of things, and in Mark Carney's case, having those placements in Virgo makes him a really good economist. You make sure he doesn't forget things, and make sure that he's very astute. And by the way, depending upon his upbringing and his moral devices, could be that he actually always tends to do the right thing. In Donald Trump's first house, it is an absolute barn burner for Donald Trump. Checkmate, everybody. Uranus means that he's going to take a look at the technology and cuff his hands. The Mars is going to be him not giving up. And by the way, any Earth sign and any Mars and Earth sign, you would better buckle down. Because on top of being a fixed sign Taurus, having an Earth sign in Mars, you know that whole thing, men are from Mars and women are from Venus? Well, guess what? When you have an Earth sign along with Mars, you better get ready for war. He is going to take this personal, and he's going to make sure Donald Trump pays for it. Let's not stop there, because Pluto in Virgo, well, that's just the grindstone, isn't it? That's just understanding that at the end of the day, you had not only better bring it, but you better do it right. He's the one that hands his paper back in front of everybody, in front of the UN, and says, do this better because it's incorrect. Mark Carney is a son of a bitch on his chart. And guess what? He can be a son of a bitch to Donald Trump. He might be the nicest person in the world. And I've seen him speak a few times, even before he was elected. He's actually well thought. He's actually somebody that thinks things through before he speaks. He's also somebody that actually has something common to say. So when he took the podium and he said, we are not going to take a step back and we are going to stand up to Donald Trump, this guy friggin' meant it. This guy is all about making sure that Donald Trump is held in check. Mark Carney is the person that the world needed right now. And dare I say, democracy runs through Canada now. Our financial future still might be up in the air. There may already be too much damage for any one person to fix. But if there's somebody that can triage this and make sure we don't bleed anymore, it is Mark Carney. Congratulations, Canada. You know how to pick a leader. And notice I really didn't say anything negative about Justin Trudeau, but he did what he was supposed to do for as long as he was supposed to do, right? It's understanding to me that the way that a lot of people think of how the United States is in the world might have just actually exposed how much we had fallen without even realizing we had fallen. 100 days is an awfully quick time to watch an empire fall. We probably didn't have it together to begin with, everybody. But when I see this picture side by side, on the left is a man that's been accepted by 3 different countries. Donald Trump has gone bankrupt in 3 different countries. The guy on the left has stood up for himself. He's been a competitive sportsman since he was a young lad. The guy on the right has never been punched in the face. This is where we're at. We're asking foreign nations to help us tame our mistakes. Donald Trump's days are numbered. I don't know if he has another 100 days. I don't know if he has another full term. But we have dipshits in Congress hurrying up trying to get bills passed that, presidents can run a third time. Well, if that's the case, we should probably roll Obama out there. Let them get trapped in their own words. Let them get stung by their own bite. The way we have to approach this is understanding that you stand up to bullies. You don't give in to the fear-mongering. They want you scared. By the way, the people that are now being affected by all the scaredom, all the feardom that keeps getting pushed around, is the stock market. And by the way, I told you so. For the last 3 years, I've actually been talking about a complete dismantling of our economic system. I just didn't think it would happen because we want to go to fake Doge currency. And listen, I have plenty of things to say about Barack Obama. He was not as clean of a president as what people praise him to be. But recency bias, we're going to take that guy over that guy. Right? No, of course they're going to put an exclusion in there for Trump, for Trump to be able to run and Obama not to. That's the thing, guys. They always change the goalpost. They always change the rules. It is they're not winning at anything unless they cheat. And they're the party that bitches about everybody getting a trophy. They're the ones that are bitching about everybody getting a chance. We used to have a set of rules in this country. It was called the Constitution. And yeah, I know it was bent on the regular. And yeah, I know that when it got down to small town rights, if Jethro, the local sheriff, pulled you over and they knew who you were, they'd be like, take it easy here, will you go? But if you were from out of state, well, guess what? You're going to get a ticket because we need some more money for the schoolyard. That's just the way it happened. That's the way it was. But now we're paranoid. We're paranoid of the police. We're paranoid that they're going to come at us because that's the fear they want you to be. Is it so then you drive the speed limit? No. It's so then you don't dare question what they do. Mark Carney has followed the laws and the rules of not one, but 3 countries. And again, Donald Trump has gone bankrupt in 3 different countries. We need to be able to call it what it is. It's a farce. It's a grift. And this spell, this illusion, this veil over all of these Trump supporters will be lifted eventually. We need to begin to develop tools to help them through this because this crash is going to be hard. I know that I'm probably saying this 3 years too early, but I'm telling you, when this veil is lifted, when the truth is really heard, you're going to understand that not only did he never walk on water, he was stealing yours at the same time. We have to call it what it is in the meantime, and it's tiring and it's exhausting. And I read and also heard today that light workers that are elevating are being hit with chronic diseases right now. They're getting hit with fatigue. They're getting hit with being tired. They're getting hit with the oddest of things, nasal stuff, flus, aches and pains that are unexplained. This is part of the price of admission for us because we're going to be the leaders tomorrow. They want you to give up. They want you to be in fear. And as we all know, the opposite of fear is love. I'm going to give you guys a heart taps, and I want you all to just simply keep going. See you guys on the flip side. Keep going.